Good afternoon, everyone watching. Welcome to the Your Overseas Home webinar on buying in Portugal. Hi, whether you're watching live or on the recorded version and wherever you might be in the world. This session is all about getting to know the Portuguese market and the three specialists whose combined expertise should make your real estate purchase a smooth, enjoyable and safe experience, what we call the golden three experts. So if you're about to start property hunting in Portugal, or maybe you've got plans to start looking in 2005, hopefully the next hour should be invaluable preparation. My name is Richard Way. I'm a member of the Your Overseas content team, and I'll be hosting the session. More importantly, though, who are these invaluable experts I mentioned? The three contacts you should have on speed dial as soon as you're ready to buy in Portugal. Well, let me introduce them. They are your property agent or agency, ideally one that's got proven experience of helping overseas buyers in Portugal. And today that is Angela Worrall from L&A Real Estate Partners. Hi, Angela.
Hi.
Second is your independent bilingual lawyer, who today is Joana Neto Mestre from Portuguese law firm MATLAW. Hi there, Joana.
Hi, everyone.
And last but definitely not least, that's your currency transfer specialist, namely Jake Roscoe from Smart Currency Exchange. Hi there, Jake.
Hi there, Richard. Hi, everyone.
Thanks, three of you, for being here and tuning in. Just to say to our listeners, we're very lucky to have such a broad range of knowledge and experience of the Portuguese market all together on one panel here today. They've given up their time to be here, so let's really make use of it and let's glean as much information as possible from them. Today's webinar is around 60 minutes and it's in question and answer format. So I'm going to start by asking each of the panelists to introduce themselves and tell you a bit more about the companies they're from and their own personal experience of the service that they can offer, how they can help you. And then I'm going to address each individually for around 15 minutes and we're going to run through questions and hopefully cover off the key points, key issues, considerations that we think you should know about in relation to each of their fields. We want to hear from you as well, though, so please don't be shy, ask the panelists something. And to do that, we've got the questions tool that you should be able to see on the dashboard. If you just type your questions in there, I can see them all and I'll field them to the relevant panelist. And just to remind you, the webinar is being recorded today, so it will be available to watch on catch up afterwards via the Your Overseas Home website. Okay, enough from me. Jake, very quickly, just tell us a bit more about Smart Currency Exchange and about your own personal experience as well, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Will do. Hi, everyone. My name is Jake Roscoe. I've been working at Smart Currency for about 1.5 years now. Here at Smart, we've been operating for 20 years now. This is our 20th year anniversary, so I've been around for quite a while. We are overseas property currency specialists, so our bread and butter is to help people like yourselves on this webinar to pay for their overseas property purchase. That's what we mainly do, and we've been doing it for a long time. So we're here to help you every step of the way and help you finance that purchase in whatever the foreign currency is. In this case, it's euros. So yeah, hopefully I can answer all of your questions.
I'm sure you can. And just so we know, your office is in London. Is that correct? You're
correct,
a UK-based company.
That's correct. Yeah, we're based in the UK in Hammersmith. All UK team. We do have offices in Spain, and we have one of my colleagues actually spends a lot of time in Portugal as well. So we've got a base in France as well. So yeah, pretty much all over the place, but main office is in London.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you very much. And then Angela, do you want to tell us about yourself and L&A Real Estate Partners and your own experience? I know you've been working in Portuguese property a long time, so just tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm the director at L&A Partners in the Algarve, and we've got an office in Tavira and in Lagos, but we are covering the whole of the Algarve. I've worked in real estate for about 11 years now, always in the Algarve. I've lived here for 18 years, and so I know quite a lot about the areas, and I've mainly dealt with international buyers and helping them with the experience, because obviously I've got a lot of experience myself doing it myself and coming over to a country where I don't speak the language as well, so I do understand that people might be a little bit afraid, and I've got the experience to be able to guide them and use the right people to do this very safely and fun while they're doing it.
Okay, and what took you to Portugal in the first place? Why did you end up living there?
Some friends of mine decided to come and live over here, and at the time, actually, my husband died, and I thought, you know what, I'd worked at the same place for 20 years, I lived in the same area, and I thought it was an opportunity to do something completely different. And I arrived on New Year's Eve and asked him, I just said, can I rent a room off you and try something different? And so got on a plane with a suitcase, and that was it, and came over. I thought I'd have a 2-year career break in UK, and then I never went back. I met my husband that I'm with about 3 months later, and started life here, and I never looked back.
No regrets.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And then, hi, Joanna. Just if you would mind just telling us a bit about your own experience and MATLAW and the services that they offer.
For sure. So MATLAW, hi everyone. I'm Joana. I'm a Portuguese lawyer and also the managing partner of MATLAW, which is a law firm totally focused on real estate in all the surrounding areas. So from taxation to also relocation, because many clients like yourselves are based outside of Portugal and willing to move here. We also covered all the property taxation issues, litigation, rentals, touristic licensing. So everything you can imagine surrounding real estate matters. So that is our goal and our focus. And our offices are currently in the Algarve, where is the origin of MATLAW. But we are also in the center of Lisbon and planning to extend to Oporto. However, at the moment, even not being physically with an office open in Oporto, we do cover the whole territory, including the islands when needed. So Portugal is a very tiny country, as you probably know. So it is possible. We do have the background required and the qualifications to cover the whole territory.
And I can see you're obviously fluent in English, so no worries there with the language. You're bilingual. I'm guessing most of your team are.
Bet on, as 99% of our clients are non-Portuguese, either from, various parts of the world. We do work, our work is totally bilingual. So any documents, any contracts, any powers of attorney are always drawn up in Portuguese and English, and all the correspondence with the clients is in English. Of course, we always try as much as possible to translate and to simplify the legal jargon, which sometimes the clients do not understand, especially because we are applying Portuguese law to non-Portuguese people. However, we do need to apply these standards. So we are here to help you really complete secure, safe transactions, smooth moves to Portugal, and to guide you through all that amazing journey, which is also very pleasant for us because we somehow are ambassadors of our country. We help you coming and living here and buying here. So that's really a pleasure. And I'm very lucky because I get to know people from all over the world willing to establish here. And I'm proud also because why Portugal? Why did they choose Portugal? And I'm so honored. So I think it's really a pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling a lot of passion here today.
It is. I find that it's enjoyable seeing of the people's reactions as well when they come to the Algarve and they've never been before, and you tell them about it, but then when they get here and they see how wonderful it actually is and how lovely the people are and that, and it does make it a very enjoyable job to do, I think.
Exactly.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much.
we have lots of different nationalities as well, and at the moment it's the Americans. Surprisingly enough, I'm sure you've noticed that we're dealing a lot with as well as the UK and people. So yeah,
we'll come back to all
it's
that
getting more and more popular.
Okay,
Has Richard.
very interesting. We'll come back to that. Thank you very much. So we've got our three experts here: our agent, our lawyer, and our currency specialist. Let's go straight to the currency section.
So yes, we help clients like right from the beginning of the journey. So when they first start looking, we like to get to know exactly what they're looking for, and it's not just about finding the property, it's also the location and what they like to do, so that they're in the right place to enjoy their hobbies and things like that. So when we speak with people,
hello, is that Angela?
We talk about all different things, not just the property.
Can you hear me all right? Hello?
Yes, Richard, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was going to start.
I can hear you as well.
Side. Yeah, sorry.
You're freezing a little bit. Your camera is sometimes. That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, let's start with the currency, and then we're going to move on to the other panelists. Jake. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, yeah, you're keeping really still. It's tricky.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, let's just talk about the whole idea of currency exchange. Too often people ignore it, or they don't think about it until we would say it's too late. So just remind the audience why it's so important before we even look at properties and you work out what you've got to spend. Well, that's why you need to think about currency, but just tell us why people need to think about the effects of exchange rates and how they can affect the cost of the property they want to buy, or indeed the whole cost of a relocation.
Yeah, will do. So currency, let's put it this way. If you're from the UK and you're buying a home in the UK, you know exactly how much you're going to be paying for that property because it's the same currency as your home currency. If you're buying a property in Portugal or anywhere else in the world, then and you're from the UK or from the US, then you have a currency exchange requirement. So at the beginning of, say for example, you get an offer accepted on your property for, I don't know, 300,000 euros. That will have a price on day one in your home currency. On versus day 90, for example, that price is the same in euros, but could be very different in your home currency, which could be either pounds or US dollars, which are the most common ones in Portugal. So you are exposed to what we call currency risk. The markets are constantly moving on every minute of every day. And that currency risk, for example, at the moment, GBP euro, we're trading at around about 120. But in 3 months' time, that could be, anywhere. Well, it could be anywhere really. So that is what we call currency risk, and that is what you are susceptible to when you're buying an overseas property. So what we do here at Smart Currency is we try and mitigate that risk for you. So we try and reduce that risk as much as possible. We have a few options in place that we can provide for that, which I'll go to in more detail in a little bit later, but that's essentially what we're here for, is to help you in that with that process.
So really, people want to be talking to you as soon as they think about buying, so they have an idea of what it's going to cost them, and then they can start looking properly. Before they've got an idea of that, they don't really know, do they?
100%. What we try and say to people is, speak to us as soon as possible. The more research you do, the more options you have. Everyone's case is different. The more options you have available to you, the better educated you will be to make your overseas property decision. What we try and tell people to get in touch with us before their viewing trip. If you've got your area down that you want to buy in, say for example the Algarve, just to keep it easy. We say to people, get in touch with us before your viewing trip so you can understand what your budget is in that local currency, in this case euros.
Okay. A lot of people, when they think of currency or money or sending money, they think of their bank, and that's still, for many people, sadly, it's the first that's their first port of call when they need to send money anywhere. We know that there's a better option, and that's using a specialist like Smart, but a lot of people don't. There are lots of reasons. Just tell us about the reasons not to go to your bank and the key benefits that Smart would offer over the bank.
Yeah, that's a great question, and arguably probably the most important one on here, to be honest. For me, if you take anything away from today, it's please don't use your bank for your overseas property purchase. They'll charge you quite a high percentage to do that exchange, which is usually anywhere between 4 and 5%. And that's not what the banks are there for, in a sense of that's not their bread and butter. Here at Smart Currency, we focus on currency exchange and currency exchange alone. So we're going to be able to provide you, I'm confident that we can provide you a better service than your high street bank. We'll also offer you better pricing than your high street bank. And we'll also offer you better options than your high street bank. What do I mean by options? We have different contracts that we can offer you with your overseas property purchase that the bank won't be able to. So we have something, for example, called a forward contract, which we can maybe go into a bit more detail a bit further down the line. Which essentially lets you lock in an exchange rate that you see on the day. Like, for example, today, you'd be able to lock in today's exchange rate and we can deliver that on the day of completion. This is very popular amongst our clients because it ties in nicely with Joanna or Angela will be able to tell you what the average completion is, probably around about 3 months, maybe, I don't know, a bit more, a bit less in Portugal. But in that 3 month window, that currency rate is moving up and down. So this sort of reduces the whole amount of risk that you're susceptible to in those 3 months and guarantees a price that you'll have no surprises on the day of completion. So these kind of things the banks won't offer.
Yeah, and I guess the integral to all of what you just said is the fact that you have a point of contact, a person. You can, an account manager, someone you can talk to, you can ring up, you can email, maybe you can WhatsApp, but you have an actual person you can go and ask and get information from, and which you won't get in your typical high street bank.
Exactly. Yeah, we have designated account managers. So you will have a designated account manager once you set up an account with us. The account is completely free to set up and takes about 5 minutes if you're based in the UK. For example, we just run a couple of checks. And once your account's set up, you have full access to your account manager. What the account manager does is, like I said before, everyone's case is different. So there are multiple different options that account manager will be able to offer to you. And whatever is, we can put together what we call a currency plan for each individual before their trip. So then you've got a really good idea of how much money you'll be able to afford for your property in the local currency before you even get there. And that gives you an idea of what your price point is and where you can search up to. But like I said before, you've got that account manager on either email, WhatsApp, phone call if you want to speak to us at any time within office hours.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people listening who might not already have an account with Smart, just talk us through the process of how it happens after. So if someone gets off the webinar today and they realise they want to open an account, what happens? How do they do that?
So you can go to our website and there's a landing page there where you can put your details in and you will be put in front of what we call our onboarding team. They will give you a call. You can set up online yourself if you want as well. You can do it all online, or you can request a call back from our onboarding team. They will give you a call. They'll just, like I said before, run a few background checks, make sure you are who you say you are, proof of address, proof of ID, and that, like I said, in the UK, it can usually be done within 5 minutes on the phone or quickly online. And then once you've done that, like I said before, the account is free, no obligation either. We don't charge anything up until the time of exchange. So yeah, you've got a whole load of information there available to you once you've got that account open with us.
Okay, and you mentioned charges. Just tell us about any fees that you do charge, because if I'm right, there are no fees for actually making a transfer. You get your costs in other ways, but just tell us how that works.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said before, no transfer fees, which is great. The way that we make our money is we charge a small percentage on the actual what we call the interbank rate. So the interbank rate is what the markets are trading at, what the big banks are trading at, should I say, where they buy the billions and trillions on a daily basis. Unfortunately, mere mortals like ourselves on this call and people on the webinar can't get those rates. So how we make our money is we charge a small percentage on that interbank rate to you when we provide you that foreign currency, and that will all be priced in, agreed on the call. Everything will be priced in to the exchange rate that you'll be receiving either on the call or over email or on the portal, online portal. So there'll be no hidden charges further down the line.
Okay, I can see some questions coming in. We will get to them.
Yeah, lots of questions.
Just staying on currency quickly, and obviously you help with the initial purchase of the property, but your smart service goes beyond that, so you can help people with all the ongoing costs that come with maintaining a property, or if you're moving, you might be receiving pensions and income from the UK or somewhere else, and then you can tie them in with forward contracts as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, Richard. So basically, we help you along across the whole timeline. Really, we can. That's why we say get in touch with us as soon as possible, because we can, if you know how much money you're going to be spending, or your budget in euros, we can help you with that. If you're going on your viewing trip and you do find a property, we can help you with that reservation deposit of 3,000, 5,000, whatever that is, and that can be done swiftly. And then we can help you with the forward contract for what a lot of our clients use a forward contracts on to be for delivery on day of completion. And then once the completion's over and done with, then we can help you with that. If you've got a mortgage payment in euros, we can set up what we call a regular payment plan. So you can fix a rate for up to 12 months for, if you've got the same amount coming in either in pounds with your pension, or if you've got the same amount going out every month in euros in Portugal for a mortgage, we can help with that as well. And we also have clients that, like I said before, we've been around for 20 years. So we've had clients that have, moved to Portugal, done everything with us there, and now they're selling their property in Portugal, moving back to the UK to be with their grandkids, etc., and then they've transferred their money back with us to pounds. So we've done the whole complete cycle, which is quite nice to see.
Great. So just very quickly, typical scenario, just so we know how the service works. I'm on a viewing trip in Portugal, see a property I want. I'm asked to sign a reservation deposit, contract, pay a deposit, speak to my lawyer, they approve the contract, it's all fine. So I'm ready to pay the deposit. Could I email or call my account manager and they would arrange, presuming my account is pre-funded, and then you could arrange the transfer within a matter of hours? Is that, just tell us how that would work.
Yeah, so you can either, sorry, I think there's a bit of background noise there from someone. Yeah, you can either pre-fund your account before your trip if you want to, which some people do, or you can, if you're not sure if you're going to find somewhere or not, and you don't want to, pre-fund your account, you can just give us a call when you're in the estate agent's office, and if you've got your offer accepted, you can be like, right, I need to send 3,000 or 5,000 euros, whatever it is. Can you make this happen for me? And we can send it to whatever bank account you want it to be sent to. In most cases, it's the lawyer, but in some cases, it's estate agents as well. Or if you have your own account already in Portugal, we can send it there. So it can be a quick turnaround. If we get a phone call in the morning, it can be out sometimes same day, but latest will be the day after from pounds to euros, which is quite a quick one to happen.
Okay, just conscious of the time. We want to make sure everyone gets a fair shot at this. There are a lot of questions coming, and it is entirely relevant, so I'll ask it now from Ray. He wants to transfer 400,000 into euros into a Portuguese bank. What are the approximate charges? Well, there are
yeah, so I won't be able to give you a price on the webinar. The best thing for you to do, Ray, is set up a call. If you've got an account with us, then pick up the phone to your account manager. They'll be able to.
I think he means are there? I think he means are there any fees? There are no fees, are there? You just have to agree to exchange.
Yeah. Exactly, that's correct. Yeah, no fees. Sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Okay, and very quickly, we haven't talked about it, and it is very important in today's world of scamming and fraud, etc. Just remind people that about Smart's regulatory accreditations and what you do to protect clients' money. Very important.
Yeah, so whatever money you send to us goes straight into client segregated account, so we can't actually touch your funds. So they're completely safe, and we're also FCA authorized as well. So that's the Financial Conduct Authority. So yeah, everything has to be above board. Like I said before, we've been operating for 20 years and need to make sure we do things by the book. So I can guarantee your funds will be safe and will be delivered to wherever you want us to deliver them to.
Fantastic. And a quick sign off. I'm right saying you do bulletins and email alerts on currency updates and things like that. And it's a great way of staying in touch and keeping your eye on what the rates are doing. Is that right? So people can sign up on the website for those, or?
Yeah, that's correct. If you open an account with us, you go onto our mailing list, and the same if you just send us an inquiry as well. We have what we call a daily currency note, which basically gets sent to you every morning. It'll just give you a snippet of, you know, what's coming up, if there's any big events happening on the sort of political side, and it'll give you an idea of where the rate's been in the past sort of couple of weeks and where we think it might be going in the future and what to look out for. It also give you a graph on there of how much the rate's been moving over the past year. I think it's about 6% this year, which, you know, can make a big difference on a property purchase, right? It can be the difference between your legal fees and potentially more. You know, if you want to put a pool in your house or villa or whatever it is, then, you know, that 6% could be the difference between you getting that pool or not, basically.
Okay, no, very true. Good way of thinking about it. And that is all, but I'm just going to get you to answer this question or confirm what I think he's asking. It's Ray. He said you charge a percentage, or have I misheard, of the value of the transfer? No, what you do is you agree an exchange rate, and that's free to the client, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So what will happen is, like I said before, whatever the market's trading at, we're around about 120 now. The price will be very close to that. You won't get that exact price of interbank rate, so it'll be the difference between whatever price you get offered on the phone and whatever the price of interbank rate is. I can't give you an exact price because each transfer is different depending on the value of the transaction. If you do actually want a quote from us, then the best thing for you to do is, like I said, get in touch, open a quick account, and someone will be able to give you a quote on that 400,000, no problem.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jake. Really interesting. We'll carry on chatting. Let's move on now. Angela, can you hear all right? I know you've been dipping in and out a bit. Are you all right?
Yeah.
You there?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Good. So you're an agent. You're based in the Algarve. I know you just said you're in you're east of Algarve and you're over in Lagos in the west. Just generally to give us an idea of what the market's been like this year. I know we were chatting. You were saying earlier you've had a lot of different nationalities. Who are the sort of clients that you've been helping during 2024?
Yeah, there seem to be the UK people are starting to move again. I would say this has been probably the quietest year I've ever had in real estate. I think that everybody's felt it. I think it has been a lot slower. And I think the good thing about the Algarve is it doesn't really affect the prices or anything like that. It just seems to slow down a little bit, which is always good because it always means it's always a good investment. So it has been a bit quieter, but a lot of US. The Americans are very much buying, and I'm sure now that Trump's in, they'll be wanting to get away even more. So yeah, it's I'm sure it's going to really pick up with them as well. But the English seems to be this year's been more relocation than investment.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to change a bit. I think people are going to go back into the investment side of it. So I'm hoping for good things next year. And lots of people, you know, doing the journey and investing in the Algarve. It'd be nice to see again.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned in your introduction, and I asked about it as well, the fact that as an agent, when you're choosing an agent, they're someone who's got experience of helping international buyers because the requirements and the journey they go on is a lot different, a lot more comprehensive than someone buying a property in their home country. So just talk us about where your service starts and ends as an international agent. I mean, you're someone's eyes and ears on the ground looking, and you're a property hunter. You're someone who helps during the transaction. You're someone who helps complete it along with a lawyer and notary. Just tell us about what people can expect in terms of your service.
Well, really, it's like as soon as you think about that, you're interested in purchasing in the Algarve, it's like that's when people need to get in touch. It could be 2 years down the line before they actually purchase. But we'll spend the time in between there making sure that they get the right information, they talk to the right people, the right experts, and they learn everything they feel they need to know before they actually do the purchase. So sometimes it can be quick, but sometimes it can be a very long process. So right from that minute when the thought is there in their mind, it's like, get in touch with us and talk to us, learn more about it. And then eventually we find out what the area is, and then onto the property. And then we do the advice with the tax people. We can then introduce them with the mortgage broker. And so we can do the whole service from start to finish. And then once they've purchased it, if they want to rent it out, we can rent it out with them. So it is we spend a lot of time with people and over a long period of time. And that's how you perfect it and get it, exactly right when you do it. Because you don't want to buy something in the wrong area. You can't change it that easily.
No. And fair to say that once clients come to you and they want to work with you, there's no real need to go and talk to other agents, because you will then go and find them the property they want. And you collaborate with other agents, is that right? So if you see properties fit their brief, you will arrange a viewing and then you can split commission or however you work it out.
Yeah, they save a lot of time by going to one person. If you just come to us and you don't go looking at others, you can go and look at other people's properties and not register, but tell us about it, and we can help them still view those properties. What it is I think if you go to a lot of people, they're not learning about you. So, for instance, as we spend time with someone, we learn more and more about them. So we're finding them. We're not selling them a property. We're finding the right one for them. And over time, they'll see things that they don't like, but they don't want to see it twice. They don't want to see it with someone else. They don't want to start from scratch with someone else. So you get so far down the line, and then if they go to someone who doesn't know them, they're going to start showing them things that they don't necessarily suit, and going through the learning process. So just stick with one, go through the process with that person, and that way they'll find the property that suits them at the end of the travels and what have you.
Okay. So let's take a typical scenario. Someone listening today, they contact you after the webinar or in a week or so's time, and they want to start looking in Portugal. What bits of information are absolutely crucial that you need from them to help you find the right property? I mean, you've got budget. Do you need to know exactly how many bedrooms? If there's sort of half a dozen key things you need to get from each client to start the property hunt, what would they be?
Well, to start with, we want to know exactly what it is. We want to know, is it an apartment? Is it a villa? How many bedrooms and the budget? And they're the main things, because first of all, we need to manage people's expectations. We're not going to pretend, and we're not going to, go along a route where they think they're going to get this perfect property for this perfect price and they're not. So it's important for us to first of all say, what your budget is and what you expect from that. And then we manage that, explain whether, you're not going to find it. So let's then re-talk about what you are going to find for that budget. Or maybe you get a mortgage and you go for that budget and get what you want. So we kind of work on it that way. And then after that, then it's the getting to know them. So initially it's the property, but just the basics. Then it's getting to know them, what they like, how they spend their evenings, how they, what they want around them. And then we focus on the location. So once we find the location that they like, then we look for the properties within that location. Sometimes it doesn't happen that smoothly, and things can change, and suddenly they find another location that they didn't think they liked, but they do. But that's basically the background to it, to be able to find exactly what you're looking for. And obviously that takes time.
Of course, but I'm assuming that today with telecommunications and email and FaceTime, and this is a sort of moving target. You're constantly communicating with clients and updating them and sending them details, so you can be in touch so easily just to send them new ideas and new properties that might be suitable.
Yeah, totally different. When I first started in real estate, if you said someone would buy a property over the telephone, like, and not come out and see it, you would be like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But now it's very common because you've got so many tools that saves them their time and money coming over, and they can see it just the same virtually. So yeah, it has changed a lot in the last 10 years.
Okay. There's a question here about viewing trips. So that's a really important part of the actual property hunting process. Someone's asked, what's the best way to organise a viewing trip? Why don't you just tell us how you typically do them? So you've had a client, you've sent them some options to come and view, and you've made a sort of hit list of properties you think will be right, and then that you get to the point where they're ready to come out to view. Just tell us about how a typical viewing trip works, maybe how long they are generally, and do you help with accommodation? How many properties do you think people should see in one trip?
Yeah, so as viewing trips, we customise. So we don't do like this is the trip and that's it, because everybody's needs is different, and especially at the moment because the property actually it's not that easy to find. It's not an abundance out there, so we customize it to what the client's looking for. So if the client's looking for something that's maybe we've only got 2 or 3 properties, so they tell us they want what they want, and we're ready to start looking for it. And then we look at what's available for them to look at, and then we customise the trip around that. So we're not going to ask people to come out for 3 days if we can only show them 2 or 3 properties in one day that we can do in one day. So we don't waste people's time. We make sure that it is around what their needs are. But basically, a general one would be like 3 days. We help with the accommodation, and we take them to see the properties when they get here. But we also introduce them to the lawyer, and to if they're having a mortgage, and to the rentals people, and we do it so that they get as much information while they're there. And if they don't find what they're looking for while they're here, then they can at least we know exactly what it is that they're looking for. And should that come up down the line, we then say, we found it, it's here, and now we can do virtual, so they don't have to come back out again for another viewing trip. So it's very customized now. I think people's needs are very different.
Okay. And when someone does find a property they want and they're ready to make an offer, do you help with the negotiation there? How involved do you get with that? Because I'm guessing you'll know the background to the sale and how much movement there might be.
Yeah, we do everything. We do the negotiation, talking to the owners. But yeah, there's nothing that the client needs to do themselves. Don't have to worry about anything. And once they've agreed a price and a deal, we then take them to the lawyer so that they can also get all the information from the lawyer, so that they know, they feel safe and they feel like, handing the money over, that there is someone there from a lawyer firm that's going to help them on that side of it.
Okay. We haven't talked about the actual Algarve itself yet, so just very quickly before we move on, could you give us a very quick breakdown of the different areas of the Algarve, perhaps areas that are suited to lower or mid budgets, and then obviously we know the Algarve's got some super exclusive areas as well. Just tell us a breakdown of the area.
Okay, so it's mainly split into to 3 areas. So it's about 120 kilometres long. So it's not that big. And we split it down to east, central and west. And they are very different. So if we start at the west side, which is the farthest away from the airport, but very, very popular. People love the west. It can be a lot of surfing through the winter down the west coast. It's more the beaches are cliffs and a bit rugged, but very lively and very popular. East is very similar to central is similar to that. And you've got the cliffs and the beaches, quite a hilly place. But properties, I would say, very similar along central to the west. You've got lots of places in between, like Bovero, Ferraguda, nice, quaint holiday places where people buy the holiday homes and things. And the prices tend to be very similar. If you go inland, you get more for your money. So nearer to the coast, obviously, more expensive it is. And then I would say we get around the airport area. We've got Quinta do Lago, Valdelobo, which are really high end. Lots of famous people live there. You expect to spend a lot of money if you're buying in that area. I mean, you probably wouldn't get anything under 700,000 or 800,000. Not even a 1-bedroom property is expensive. But then if you go east, and we go east to from Faro, it changes a lot there. It's more flatter, but the beaches are more open and flat. And then you've got a lot of areas as well where you need a boat. You're getting a boat to go across to the beach, which is really quaint. It's only, it's not far. It's just a little fishing boat. You jump in, and they nip you over. And it's we've got the Ria Formosa where it's white sands all in the ocean, like on banks, like absolutely stunning. And little islands in there where there's no cars, and little shanty houses where you feel like you're in the Caribbean. The sea is really, really warm. It's really shallow and turquoise. It's absolutely stunning. Lovely little restaurants. And there as well, on that side of it, is where the prices are a little lower. You'll get more for your money in the east, mainly because it's not as people always get off the plane and go west. But now they're starting over the last few years to go east. So the prices are going up. But there's lots. I mean, Cabanas, we've just got a new development in Cabanas that's absolutely amazing. Will be completed in 2 years. And that's a little fishing village, Fazetta, beautiful little fishing village. So it's more quaint and traditional. But yeah, the whole of the Algarve is lovely.
Yeah, can you give us an idea of prices in the Eastern Algarve? If I wanted an apartment near the beach or a little villa somewhere, just 5 minutes from the beach.
Yeah, I mean the ones in Cabanas that we've just got, they start they're between like 300,000, about 350,000 up to 800,000 for the penthouse. So 2 bedrooms, you're looking about 420,000. Literally second line, so walk to the seafront. If you want a villa, you're talking around 700,000. And obviously, if you go further back, again, you get more for your money rather than the prices come down. If you get what I mean, you'll get more land and stuff like that. So around the east, those are the prices. If you go to the west and you're looking for a 2-bedroom apartment, you start in about 100,000 higher. It's more expensive, but again, inland front sea view is like very expensive. 2-bedroom sea view front line, you're talking 700,000, 2-bedroom apartment and stuff like that. If it's new.
Okay, that's for new build. Yeah. Thank you very much. While I've got you, I just sort of ask you. I think you can probably answer this. A mortgage question. I'm assuming that you guys can help with mortgages. And the question is, where's it gone? Someone moving over from Singapore, actually. Andrew's moving from Singapore to Portugal in about 18 months. What sort of loan to value ratio can someone like that get, an international buyer, a non-resident buyer get in Portugal? Well, he will be a resident when he moves, but what are we looking at?
Well, mortgages over here, it doesn't matter whether you're Portuguese or any nationality, it's exactly the same process. So it doesn't change. Um, there's usually a 30% deposit down and a 70% mortgage is usually the higher. Sometimes you can get higher, and a lot of things, it does often go on circumstances, but in general, it's 30% and 70% mortgage. It's very much like it's like a 40-year length of mortgage that you can have up to the age of usually 75. Again, these change with different banks, but in general, that's the kind of what you're kind of looking at. But it's best to talk to someone and give us a ring, and we can give you the information based on you as an individual. But as for it being different to because you're coming from Singapore, no, it's exactly the same as it would be for a Portuguese person.
Okay. Thank you very much, Angela. Really appreciate that. Really interesting. We could have chatted longer, but Joanna's waiting. Thank you for being so patient. Certainly equally as valuable as our other speakers.
Difficult
we've heard from the agent. We've heard from the currency guy. So Gianna, when do you like to start speaking to clients? Is it before they even purchase, so you can build up a sort of profile of what they're going to need? Maybe they need structure to purchase certain work, or is that really when you like to start speaking to people?
Thanks, Richard. I'm hearing a little bit of yes. Oh, perfect. Much better. So, it's really important, Richard, that the clients get in contact with us as sooner as possible. And I explain you one of the most important reasons is when a client wants to buy a property or do a real estate investment in Portugal, the client it's really important to define the best structure for that. And what I mean with structure is whether the client will buy in an individual, sole name, whether the client will buy jointly with a partner, whether the client will buy in the children name. And I understand now from very recent UK tax law changes that is being, on top of the table a lot. Yeah. So the structure of the purchase is really important, and that will influence the rest of the process. Okay. So if you just say, Joanna, I want to buy a property, can we organize our power of attorney for you and MATLAW to represent us? Definitely. But that initial document needs to be drawn up and reflected and designed according to this structure that we will implement later. That is even more important for investment. Okay, for example, if a client owns a business in the UK and wants that business to invest in Portugal, we need to define whether we will have the UK business, the company, an LLC, for example, buying directly in Portugal, which is absolutely possible, okay, or whether we will incorporate a Portuguese subsidiary of that UK business to acquire the Portuguese state, the Portuguese property. So this all is related to the structure of the investment, and it's really important to be discussed and defined on an early stage of the process, okay? We can also start from the very beginning assisting our clients obtaining their Portuguese taxpayer numbers with our firm's representation before the Portuguese tax authority, explaining what are the tax implications around buying and owning property in Portugal, and also really, really important, the tax implications of moving to Portugal. Okay, so and this is especially addressed to those who will planning on a permanent move to Portugal, because then you will likely become Portuguese tax residents, and that will have a massive implication on your taxation worldwide, okay, on your income worldwide. So we do prepare this tax assessment for our clients willing to move to Portugal, or for those who are not willing to move but just to invest or have a second holiday home here. We can cover all these preliminary questions and how they will be treated, how will their rental income be taxed in Portugal, what are their options, and that is why in my opinion, it's really important to have this information as sooner as possible, Also because it will sometimes influence your viewing trips. The properties you will be looking for with your agents, the areas. So yeah, we do recommend an early contact.
Okay. So once you've appointed your lawyer and you've got your currency ready and you're out with an agent, is the next point that you're likely to need or the first time you're likely to need your lawyer is when you make an offer and you get asked to sign anything, which would be a reservation deposit contract. So someone would, correct me if I'm wrong, they would then contact you and say, I've been asked to sign this, pay a deposit, but they send you the contract to check it. Is that what would normally happen? And then you would say that's fine, or change that, and then they would pay the deposit over.
So normally we are informed by the clients and their agents that the clients had an offer accepted, and we are provided with the contact details or the selling party or the seller's representative, and usually it's the buying party's legal representatives, the lawyers, preparing what is so-called a promissory note or promissory contract. The reservation agreement is also very common. Not all the agents, and Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, but not all the agents do require a reservation form or a reservation agreement, or even if a reservation form is signed, they do not require an immediate payment for that to happen. This is because it's somehow, in a gray area. How is this payment regulated? Is it refundable? Is it non-refundable? Who receives this money? So when we have clients being asked for reservation agreements, of course, I'm not lying. I always prefer not to have a client paying any amounts before we carry out legal due diligence on a property, or if that amount is to be paid, that is not paid to the seller. Because then the chances, of getting the monies back are reduced significantly, because we don't know if we will be buying that property at the end or not. As lawyers, we are also asked a lot to keep these reservation funds in our client account, as in escrow, let's say. So it's also a gesture of goodwill. You really intend to purchase this property, so you have already sent your lawyers a percentage. It can be usually up to 5,000. It's a normal reservation amount. Okay, and then why is this required? Because once your lawyers start drafting this promissory note and carrying out legal and technical due diligence on the property that you have put your offer and was accepted, once this stage has been fully completed and you are asked to sign this so-called promissory note or promissory agreement, you will be required to pay a deposit. And this is really a non-refundable deposit, okay? And then we are not talking about 5,000. We are talking about at least 10% of the purchase price. 10% is the common price.
So the promissory is like what we would call probably exchange. Is that the same as exchange in the UK?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The difference, though, Richard, is that in the UK, if I understand, because this is just from what the clients explain us, because my background is legal in Portuguese law, but in the UK, the exchange of contract doesn't mean that the buyers will definitely buy the property, because they can pull out later on, right?
Correct.
Without any consequences. Well, in Portugal, the signing, these exchange of contracts in Portugal requires the payment of this deposit. And unless the parties agree otherwise, this deposit is non-refundable. So if for any reason the buyer decides to pull out, they will lose this deposit. So this is already a risk, okay? This is a real commitment, okay? This is not like the reservation form. This is the real moment where you commit and the property is officially out of the market. Why? Because it's very unlikely that someone will be willing to lose 10 or 20% of a deposit paid on signing of a promissory. You can talk about thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of euros, okay? Yeah. So that is why it's so important that before this moment and before this payment, which is crucial throughout the process, you know exactly what you're buying, and you have carried out proper due diligence on the property, and you know what you're buying. And also, if any things need to be addressed before completion, like registrations or any issues that need to be sorted, which is absolutely they can be included in this draft of promissory contract. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, no, good answer. And then after signing promissory contract, completion is the final and next step. And how long does that take? Well, first of all, between promissory and completion, but generally at the moment, what is a typical transaction? How long is it taking from acceptance of an offer to getting the keys at completion? Maybe Angela can give some experience of that as well. What is a typical transaction at the moment taking?
Mm-hmm. Well, the timings of a transaction can be so different. I always say each process and each transaction is a transaction, completely different. There are no two equal. And I explain
what are the fastest times you're seeing at the moment? Just so
fastest, in 1 week we can skip the promissory, go straight for completion.
Okay.
In 10 days we are completing. Okay, but this is not a common practice, I must say. It's really rare. So what will influence and impact the completion time? I give you a few aspects. So on average, we can talk about 2 months, and you have from signing to completion, you have a property purchase process completed. What can influence and impact this 60-day more or less deadline? Well, if the buyer is applying for a mortgage, we will immediately and automatically have a third party, which is the financer, the lender here, involved in the process. So we have this triangle: the buyer, the seller, and the bank lending the funds for the purchase. So this will immediately drag a little bit the process, because an independent survey is required to determine the value of the property for LTV purposes. You'll be required to sign a lot of paperwork, negotiate your mortgage terms, and then your lawyers will be representing you in both processes: the purchase, the property purchase. The seller doesn't care whether you're buying with a mortgage or not, but you need to look after the property purchase and the selling side, and then the mortgage and the financing side. So it will be two contracts in one to be completed at the same time on the same date. Okay. So this usually drags a little bit, and it can be completed within the 60 days. I've seen that. It depends a lot on the banks you work with, on the people working there, and how overload they are also with transactions. The other thing that can really influence completion dates is these conditions preceding to completion. Eventually, if something needs to be organized or sorted with the property beforehand, like registrations, amendments of areas, cancellation of easements, which are identified during legal due diligence, and also the sellers and the buyers' timelines, because sometimes we have clients, oh, Joanna, we want to complete, but first we need to sell our property in the UK. So we need more time. Or we have sellers living permanently at this property that you had your offer accepted, and they still need to find another place to live. So they also need time to move to another property and to complete. So this is all really subject to negotiation during the initial stage of the contract. And there are no two processes exactly the same, because they will have different implications and different aspects to look after. But this is generally a general and standard deadline will be 60 to 90 days.
Would you agree with that, Angela? Is that what you're seeing with clients? Yeah, 60 to 90 days.
Thank you, Angela.
I think you're on mute, but I think that was a yes. Yeah.
It was yes. It was a yes.
Okay, great. Questions come in. I was going to ask this as well, but it's about the buying costs and fees that come with the purchase. Do you want to just run through what taxes, fees, and any other sundry costs someone should expect with a typical Portuguese property? I know that that is scaled some of the taxes. So maybe, well, mention that, and can you give a ballpark of a percentage that people should budget?
I usually recommend clients to budget, worst case scenario, 10% of the purchase price agreed. Okay, and this will cover everything: your lawyer's fees, your transfer tax, your stamp duty, your registration, notary fees, surveyors costs. 10% it should be more than enough for all that. Okay, I'm not counting with any costs needing in the origin. So if you need to exchange money and you have to bear costs on that, or if you need to organize documents in your home country. But usually 10% it's the top of the top. It's the worst case scenario. I always prefer to give the worst case scenario and then surprise, lower than the opposite. Okay, but indeed the property transfer tax in Portugal is progressive. For when we are buying a property for housing purposes. Okay, but for instance, if the property that you are buying is within a touristic resort licensed for touristic purposes, automatically that transaction will be subject to a 6.5 flat % rate, just because you're buying a property that it's not purely a housing property, but it's more a unit of a resort. Which you can use for your own purposes, and family and friends will be subject to different rules and regulations. Which, again, you'll be informed of all that by your lawyers during legal due diligence and in our due diligence reports. But automatically, just because the property is located in this resort, the transfer tax will be flat and not a progressive rate. Okay. Then you have stamp duty. And then you have notary and registration fees, lawyers' fees, and surveyors. And just allow me to give this note, because I think it's one of the main differences between UK/common law and Portuguese system, which is the technical inspection and technical surveys to a property are not mandatory in Portugal. Okay, anyone can buy a property without carrying out a technical survey and inspection to what they are buying. However, we do recommend, especially when the amount of investment, is higher, because the risk is also higher. And in this case, the cost of a technical survey, as it's optional, it's always borne by the buying party.
Okay, good advice. Thank you. One thing we haven't mentioned is power of attorney, because that's something I would imagine a lot of your overseas clients do. Just talk us through how that works and why anyone should do it, really.
Yeah, that is the document that starts, and grants us powers to act on behalf of the clients from the very beginning till the end. We have clients who, especially during COVID, who granted us powers of attorney without ever coming to Portugal and without ever seeing a property in person. So we assisted and completed the property purchase for them, and then handed the keys the first time they came to see their property. So really, it's something that can be organized remotely if needed, or during a client's viewing trip or short stay in Portugal in one of our offices or somewhere else. Okay, so we can organize. It's really important that it's structured according to this initial discussed structure of the property, of the purchase that the client wants to complete and discussed, and then it will include powers for our lawyers to act on behalf of the clients from the very beginning until the end. So they don't need to worry about anything, okay? One thing I always like to mention, though, is at MATLAW, we do not move clients' bank accounts, okay? We can recommend you to banks, we can recommend you and assist you when the moment to open a bank account comes, because you do not need a bank account to buy a property in Portugal, okay? But it's something that the clients sometimes ask, oh, can you open a bank account for us? We can assist, but opening a bank account for a client would require us having powers to move and access that account, at least in Portugal. So it's something that we decline and we cannot assist the clients with, okay? At least so far, that is the proceeding, okay, for a matter of security. However, we do receive from Smart and all the FX agents the clients work with we are in direct contact with them. Also, for security purposes, it's really important that your FX agents contact your lawyers and confirm the account details where your funds are being sent to avoid scamming and problems like that. So then we will provide our client account details. The funds come to the firm's client account, and then we will organize all the payments, including the property purchase price, on behalf of the clients, okay? But we will not move the client accounts. We will not touch your money, okay? You send us your money, and then we organize all the payments, and we send you a completion statement with what has been paid on your behalf.
Okay. Completion statement. That's a good place to end. There are a few more questions. Some of them are quite specific, so I would encourage you to get in touch directly with our panelists. You'll be able to get the contact details afterwards.
You're very welcome.
But thank you for those questions. Unfortunately, that we are out of time. We've run over, so we'll get in trouble if we go on too much longer. Thank you very much to the audience for tuning in and watching today, whether you're watching live or you're watching a recorded version. Share a link with anyone else you think might find this useful. And like I said, don't hesitate to get in touch with the panelists or your overseas home with more questions or to make contact with today's panelists. Thank you very much, Angela from L&A Real Estate Partners, Joanna from MATLAW, and of course Jake from Smart Currency. Really appreciate you giving up your time for this today. And thank you for your patience between speakers. Just a couple of final points from me. If you found this webinar useful, the team here would really appreciate it if you left us a review on the review website Trustpilot. And I've got to save the date for you as well.
Well, I think Richard.
Yeah, I think that's wrapped up.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.